guys know this gas station? I recommend this sandwich. Croissant melt turkey. Boom. I usually don't do breakfast, but this is a 6.5 hour test, so I'm not trying to go hungry during that test. I've made a key groundbreaking discovery. What is that? It's this black coffee. 16 ounces of pure black coffee. It'll get me wired during this test, and I'll be absolutely focused. This is why I like to leave at a decent time. It's 7 a.m. right now, and we a little stuck. I didn't make it on the express lane, so I'm stuck here. That's Messi Stadium. Messi plays there. Messi! This is the building right here. Beautiful, beautiful sunrise in Florida.
Third floor, and the men's room is in the left hallway.
All right, thank you. Ladies and gents, I am feeling wired. Holding my books in this hand.
Good morning.
Good morning. That's the face you make when you pass your exam. Good. Woo! Let's go. So let's get to the point on why you clicked on this video. So you want to pass your business and finance exam for your contractor's license, whether it could be your general contracting license, HVAC contractor, plumbing contractor, electric. You want to pass. The first thing you must understand about this test is that this is not a memorization test. You can try to remember a bunch of answers, right? Let's say you somehow remember 1,000 questions and answers, right? You will absolutely be shitting yourself when you realize you go on test day and you look at the questions that out of the 125 questions on that test, you can only recognize 4 to 5. You'd be lucky if you even get 10, and that's not a passing score. So guess what? Now you're stuck having to go through this book. But what if I told you there's a way that you can use memory, but in a way that will let you pass the exam? I'll get into it. Each chapter is a different subject, right? So for example, chapter 1 is all about business planning and organization. I'm reading it off my book right now. Chapter 2 is all about licensing. Chapter 3 is financial management. Chapter 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, all the way to the end. And if one thing you can actually understand from this is that it actually goes in order. So this is the first thing you can actually put in your brain. This is actually a step-by-step process how to become a contractor. So right, chapter 1 is a handbook. And chapter 1 begins with, what is your business plan? You all of a sudden, you wake up one day, you want to become a contractor. Awesome. You got to create a plan, because you're not just going to become a contractor. You got to know what's, the steps to take. What kind of, do you want to be a corporation? Do you want to have a joint venture? Do you want to be a sole proprietorship? Probably said that wrong, but what do you want to be? Chapter 2 is licensing. So now you know exactly, you want to have a corporation. You want to be a general contractor. You need to get the required license to be that. Exactly. So that's chapter 2, all about licensing laws and regulations, disciplinary actions. So, any violations you commit on a license, it's all listed there. Now that you have your license and you already have your business, right? Chapter 1 is business, chapter 2 is licensing. Now comes chapter 3, financial management. You need to have finances. You need to have your finances organized. You need to have a game plan. You need to have an accountant, or you should, at least if you're running a huge corporation. You really don't need none of these things, but if you want to be a corporation tends to have these discrepancies, right? Following financial management, now that you got your license, or excuse me, you know what business you're running, you got your licenses for that business, now you got the funds, guess what's next? Chapter 4, risk management. And risk management talks pretty much all about the insurance that you get and bonds, also calculating bond costs and definitions and types of bonds and insurance. Next is, once you're insured, you got to get employees. So chapter 5 is all about employment laws and regulations. What are the laws of employment? Like what's the minimum wage you're supposed to pay an employee? What are compensations they're supposed to get? Now chapter 6 is all about workers' compensation. Now that you have employees, if they get hurt on the job or something happens, and God forbid they dies on the job, you need to follow these set rules that they have in place for workers' comp, how you go about proceeding those. Next is Chapter 7, all about safety, rigging and all that. So, now after you have all these things, you gotta be, safety. And then chapters 8, 9, and 10 have to do, after everything's already been done, you understand licensing laws, you got your business set up, you got the finances straight, you got your risk management straight, you got the workers' comp, you have the required forms, everything for your corporation. Now, chapters 8, 9, and 10 is all about starting these jobs. Chapter 8 is all about contracts and subcontracts, implied terms and express terms, construction defects. Chapter 9 is about construction liens. So now after you already have a contract and you did something, like you built a home, for example, because you're a general contractor, and let's say they don't pay up. Now you got to deal with lien laws. Okay, you got to, what are the following procedures to claim a lien on someone's property? And privity, notice of commencement is also on this chapter as well. And after chapter 9, now it's chapter 10, project management. So how do you manage a project? What does your superintendent do? What does the project manager do? What are some factors that affect productivity in your business? All of these things. So the contractor manual goes in orders from chapters 1 through 10 on essentially how to run a business, and all the legal discrepancies involved. Goes in order perfectly. So if you already don't know and you're asking yourself, where do you find these questions to study off of? Because these are going to be questions you got to study, because you do have to study questions, right? And then in the sense of not really trying to memorize a question per se. I can't even think of a question in my head. I just finished examining. I'm tired. My brain's fried. You actually want to associate the questions that you're reading by the chapter of that book, right? So let's say you have a question that's asking, what is the penalty if a contractor uses his license in the way he's not supposed to? Just by reading what is the contractor, with his license, any licensing question, boom, chapter 2. How do you create a schedule for a project you're about to commence? Guess what? Chapter 10, project management. You allocate that question in chapter 10. And I'm going to show you exactly what I do during test day that can maybe actually help you out as well. And another example, what is a complete contract method? This is also in the business and accounting, builder's guide to accounting, But that particular question is actually also in the contractor's manual, which typically you probably want to look at it through there. But you would know that's a chapter 3 question, financial management. What is a surety bond? That's a chapter 4 question, because chapter 4 is risk management, all about insurance and bonds. You know that. So now you can read the questions and actually associate the question to the chapter of the book that it's on. Next thing is I'm going to show you how I tackle this test. First things first. When I was studying for my test, this is how I would study. So as you can see, I got numbers 1 through 125, and each number has a book associated with it, right? So for number 1, it's Builder's Guide to Accounting. I labeled it BGA. Question 2 is CM4. What does that mean? Contractor Manual, Chapter 4. Number 3, Contractor Manual, Chapter 7. BGA, CM1, CM2. And then sometimes you're going to see either a 2, you're going to see a 7, or just a 4. This is referring to the AIAs. So instead of writing AIA, because each AIA I write is going to take a little time. Maybe not that much, but this is just how I like to do it. I just write the number and I know exactly what I'm referring to. I got my books from the Exam Pros. I'm not incentivized by them in any way. They should incentivize me for this, but I'm actually doing this just for everyone's sake, because I know everyone wants to pass. So I use the Exam Pros. I'm not sure if all the other ones are different, but how this one works is they send you a link basically with the courses, and there's some short videos, like tricks, keywords, time management. Time management's also important. They talk about taking breaks, take a break every hour, take like a 5-minute break, adds up to 30 minutes. I did that the first 2 times. I failed the first 2 times. I only took 1 break today, and that was because I drank a coffee, and you know what coffee makes you go use the bathroom. So that was the only break I took, and I passed. So while I was studying, I'm not gonna lie, I did remember some, like this one, for example. A properly registered fictitious name is valid for, there's only one question. If you read this, you automatically know it's 5 years. So, but if we come all the way down to the key, look, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 1, number 1 is D, right? 5 years. And then so on and so forth. So, as you're reading, I like to have a second window open with the answers right here. That way, if I know an answer, if I don't know an answer, actually, I can look to the side where it actually has the page number. I go to that page and then I associate that page with that chapter in the contractor's manual. I do. Okay, so for the final exam, right, this one is actually exam number 4. So let's say you have this one, right? This is how I studied the exam pros. On this, I would have, I'd be reading the questions and trying to answer here. And then all the way down here, I would have the answers. I wouldn't look at the answers yet. The first thing I would do, grab a blank piece of paper and label 1 through 125. I recorded my time. I got, the first time it was like 1 minute and 40 seconds, and another time was like 2 minutes and 20 seconds. So give or take maybe 2 minutes and 30 seconds. I usually write that before I get the test started so I don't waste those valuable minutes just writing 1 through 125. That's silly. So technically you're not supposed to, but what the heck, like I'm the first person there. So while they're busy seating everyone, I'm over here busy writing 1 through 125. There's no problem with that. Don't worry about that. Just do 1 through 25. So you write 1 through 125. Then I start reading each question. Estelle Construction has $20,000 in fixed expense, 60% in profit margin, and 15% variable cost. All this percentage and variable cost and all this jargon, I can immediately tell this have to do with the Builder's Guide to Accounting. And check it out, BGA. And I got it right because the ones that I did get wrong was 29. Yeah, I thought it was either in chapter 8 or BGA. Nope, this was actually in the AIA. And what I would also do is if you don't know in which book it is exactly, if you don't know if it's in the financial section of the contractor's manual or BGA, you can actually write both with a slash. So that way you don't have to just have one book written. This is why this method's really good. So I can fit 2, maybe 3 slashes, right? If there's 3 books you might think it's in, write them down. So if it's not in one book, it's going to be in the other book. And then as you're reading, you're like, oh no, it's actually in the 3rd book. So boom, I circled it after I checked the correct answer. So same way here. I knew it was in the contractor's manual, but I didn't know if it was in chapter 8 or 4. So I wrote 8/4. The first place I would check is 8 because I have the 8 first, and then the /4. 4 would be the next one I would check, and it was actually 4. Same here. And I got this one wrong. I thought it was in chapter 10. This was in 201. I was getting tired like when I was getting here. And to do all this, for me, it takes about 20 minutes. If you really want to dissect the test, because you got to know who you're battling against, right? You got to know your opponent, which is this test. So you got to be able to see how you're going to infiltrate the enemy. By doing this, you completely structure the entire test 1 through 125. And now you have everything categorized. So now you know exactly where to look. So now you're not flipping through books. You're not doing none of that crazy stuff. You want to start by book. So I like to start with the hardest, which for me is the contractor's manual, as it's also the longest. It has 10 chapters. So I'll be looking for CM1 there, CM1 there. So 2, 3, etc. All the way until I get across. And I do CM2, CM7. That's 7. Don't do 7 first. I do 2, CM2, blah, 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 blah. Then 3, wherever 3 is, boom, 3, boom, 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 and then etc. So when I finish that, then I go to BGA, and then I start with the AIA 201s, then I go to the 401s, then I go to the 701s. So I do 2, 4, 7. And once I go through all the books, if there's some questions that I couldn't find, I don't spend too much time. I don't spend more than 5 minutes on a question. Really, I don't spend more than 3 minutes on a question. Skip it. If you can't find the answer, skip each question that you cannot find the answer to. Keep going, just keep going, and then just move on to the next book. Keep going. Once you went through all the books, now you can start going through the ones that you missed. Now you can start going through, okay, I answered all the way up to 18, 23, right? But I couldn't find 24. Go back to 24. Boom. Still couldn't find it in 3 to 5 minutes. Next question. And basically rinse and repeat. Essentially, I mean, that's really how you can pass this test. It's not easy, and this test was really hard, and it's stressful. And while you're test taking, like today, how I was testing, I thought I still had 20 unanswered questions. Oh, and what you can also do, what I was doing as well, is I was check marking the answers that I knew were correct. Like if let's say I looked in BGA and I found the answer number 1, I knew it was C, I would check it. So you need 84 questions to pass. So I counted up all my questions and I only had 60 marks, and I had 40 minutes left, and I had 20 unanswered questions. So I'm like, oh shoot. So I didn't even bother to review the ones that I had already checked or the ones that I had answered but I wasn't sure of. I had to answer every single question that was on this test. You do not want to leave a single question blank. Another thing that you can also do is called the ABCD method, right? So let me use this blank piece of paper. So let's say you got 10 questions, right? This is A, B, C, D. You answer A twice, C twice, D once. So now you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You have 6 answered questions. You got 1 minute left, but it takes you 1 minute to answer one question. So what you would do is the A, B, C, D method is essentially you tally these up. So how much do you have for A? You have 2 answered for A. You have 1 answered for B, 2 answered for C, and 1 answered for D. Statistically speaking, the questions are pretty evenly answered. So there's roughly 25% questions are A, 25% questions are B, 20, etc., C and D. You would want to choose, if you're running out of time and you really don't even know the question, you don't even know the answer, you can safely answer B and B for the last one. You have a 25% chance of getting either all B's or all D's. You don't want a Christmas tree, because there's a chance you can get them all wrong. But if you answer all of them in a straight line, there's a chance that you get at least one right, which is 25%. And maybe out of these 2, you might get 2 right, which is 50%, which one question is the difference between a passing score and a failing score. So this is the last thing I did, because I had 45 minutes left on my test and I had 20 unanswered questions. What I was doing was I didn't review all the questions I had previously answered. I didn't review them. I was just answering the questions that I didn't know. What I did was I tallied up A, B, C, D. And on the test, you can actually press this arrow key and it'll go to the next question. So I'd look up, if I had B marked, I'll do B. If I had C marked on the next question, C, D, A, bing, bing, bing. Once I tallied up all of them, I actually had like 40 tallies for B, 26 tallies for C, and then I had only maybe 10 tallies for D and 18 tallies for A. So my last 20 questions, the 20 unanswered questions, I knew my answer would have to be between A and D. So while I'm reading the unanswered questions, I'm like, okay, actually, after studying so much, I realized, I'm like, okay, this one actually could be D. I tallied it. Oh, this one could actually be A. Boom, 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 boom. And that's how I finished the test. I had 4 minutes left. Honestly, my brain was fried, but if you can, try to go review some questions that you might have missed. But for me, I was just like, you know what, 4 minutes left. I'm done. Closed my eyes. Prayed. And I got a passing score, 75, result pass. Just know it is possible to pass this. It's not easy. It is going to be a little stressful. If you put in the work, God rewards hard work. I spent 12 hours studying from when I got up, 8 a.m. I did a couple things, and then, like an hour, maybe I went to like the car wash, and then I went to Home Depot, returned something real quick. That took like maybe 2 hours of my day. By the time I finished studying, it was 10 o'clock at night. So give or take 12 hours of studying. I was studying for 12 hours. Previous days, I'd be studying for 8, 10 hours. I'm studying. I put in the work. I had already previously taken this test, so I kind of knew what to expect already. I still had to study really hard. I spent 2 weeks and a half studying, fully concentrated. I was not doing any work. I was literally just trying to study and pass this test. Yeah, I had fun some days, on the weekend, friends asking me to go out. Yeah. I went out, had fun a little bit because, I had to take my mind off. You need a break too. You're not a robot. You need to give your brain a break. You study the questions, you try to match them to the chapter of the book that you're reading. And this also goes for business and accounting. If you see something about variable expense or, a break-even point or a salvage value, this is questions concerning the builder's guide to accounting. More of cost plus contracts, lump sum contracts. This is in the chapter 3, financial management, in the Contractors manual. And if you're unsure, if it's in the Contractors manual chapter 3 or BGA, you can write down both and then look in both books, see if you can find them. This is how you pass the test. So guys, all that being said, if you made it through to the end of this video, thank you. And I hope you pick something up you know, if even if you got 1% of this whole entire video, that, you know, that's all you need. But key things to remember: if you start feeling during the test like maybe you're 30 minutes in, an hour in, 2 hours in, and you're feeling like, oh my god, like this is a lot of books, remember, you're allowed to take breaks. Go ahead, use the bathroom, drink some water, splash some water on your face, refocus, because you got to be in a good state of mind. You don't want your brain too fatigued. Next thing is answer every single question, of course. Try to correlate the questions that you're reading to the chapter or to the book that the answer, you would find the answer in. Next thing is, if you're running out of time, but you have enough time where you can actually tally up every single, you know, letter A, B, and C, and D that you have answered. And let's say, you know, you have tallied A and C and B 20 times, but D, you only tallied it 5 times, but you got 5 more questions. It's most likely than not, it's gonna be all D. So you can either select all D, which is actually what the ABCD method consists of, or what I still do is I still read the question, I still give my best estimated guess, but I'm always looking for that D. I'm always looking, oh yeah, actually D looks like it could be correct. Boom, tally up D, answer D. Pray to God, pray to God. And if God sees you put in the work, you put in the hours to pass this exam, he'll definitely reward you, and he rewards hard work. Anyone's hardworking, anyone who's diligent enough to pass this exam, you know, huge respect to you as well. This is a very tough exam, and congratulations already, because you passed. And let me just add something on, a little bonus. So as you can tell, I got a little haircut. I got a haircut the day before my exam. Why? Because I wanted to feel fresh, because I'm a hustler. I wanted to feel fresh for this exam, right? Because they say if you look good, you feel good. If you feel good, you perform good. So, hey, I was looking good. I was feeling good. So, hey, guess what? I performed good. As you can tell, I passed. Another thing, for breakfast, I don't usually eat breakfast in the morning, but I do. When I do take a test, I try to get like a little sandwich in, and then I chug a little coffee, a little medium black coffee only. It's a miracle drug. It kept me a little like I wasn't like itching, like ugh, but like I was kind of like I felt in the zone. Not like I was on drugs or anything, but I felt like I was in the zone. I felt focused, could read the question, I could easily correlate. And let me make another thing clear. All those questions that I just showed you from memory, I probably memorized that I seen on the test about maybe 10 to 15 questions, because I studied so many questions. I just knew the answer. Oh, I know it's this one for sure. I still looked for it and I found it, but I still checked. For the rest of the questions, like the 90, the 110 questions more that I had to answer still, I had to look for them in the book. When I took this test, I was actually surprised the amount of Builder's Guide to Accounting questions there was. There was a lot of BGA questions. BS. Is BS, because I was studying the Contractors manual, and every time I took the test previously, it was the Contractors manual that had the most questions. But no, not this time. That's the one I studied now, and guess what? Most of the questions were in here. But guess what? This boy right here, this index, if you get your books tabbed, I got my books pre-tabbed and pre-highlighted. Guess what? You can go in here. Oh, you got to find something about assets. Boom. Right here. Assets accounts. It's in the index. Look through your index. Your index is a cheat code. The glossary is a cheat code. Any question that's asking you about what does it mean when this happens, boom, check the glossary. It's most likely in the glossary. If the index in the Contractors book, it's not super detailed, but if you cannot find a question, check it out still. And you know it's in the Contractors manual, check out the index, because the index will help you. It helped me. I found a few questions that I couldn't find when I thought I could find it. I checked the index. Surprisingly enough, it was there. Boom. Go to that page. Found the answer. That's another point. That could have been the difference between me passing or failing. So you got to give this test your all. Be fully focused. Concentrate, and let's get that dub, baby. Let's get the dub. Let's go.